tutorial, I will show you how to make 3 different sizes of book covers. One for a smaller, skinnier book, one for your average sized paperback or hardback book, and then one for your not so average sized book, like a very chunky book that is 800 or more pages. They are all made slightly different. I will have the timestamps down below if you're looking to make a specific size. So this tutorial will be laid out in small, medium, and then large. We will be starting out with the small. If you are looking to make a different size, then check out the timestamps down below. For these book covers, you can use any yarn you want. I will be using 3 different types of yarn in this tutorial. For the first one, I'm using a weight 3 and a 4mm hook, but you can use whatever you want. We will be starting with the smallest book first. So how we will start this is you're going to chain as many chains as you need to go around your book. For me, that will be 70 chains, but whatever size your book is, that's how you will start off. So just chain as many as you need until you can wrap a chain around your book vertically. And again, for this size book, it's going to be 70 chains for me. Okay, I now have my 70 chains. And now you can see if the ends meet, and I can see that my chains meet up with each other very nicely. And now I can connect my chain together so we can work in the round from here on out. So without twisting your chain, you're going to slip stitch into the first chain that you made. And now your chain is connected. We will now be working double crochets. So to start off my double crochets, I like to stack 2 single crochets on top of each other. It helps your work be more seamless and even. You don't have to do that. You can just chain 2 and count that as your first double crochet, but I think it looks much neater to stack 2 single crochets on top of each other. I'll have a tutorial linked down below on how to do that, but I will also show you here. So you're going to chain 1. In that first chain that you just slip stitched into, you're going to work a single crochet, and then you have these 2 bars. In the very left bar, you're going to insert your hook and work another single crochet. And now this is the height of a double crochet, and that is our first double crochet of the round. And you will only be doing this for the very first double crochet of every round, so just continue working double crochets in each chain until the end of your chain. I just worked in the last chain, and now I'm going to slip stitch into the first stitch of the round. And there is our first round. So from here, I'm going to work a total of 14 double crochet rounds. You can work more or less depending on the size of book you are making your cover for, but 14 rounds is gonna be good for me. You're just going to continue working double crochets in every stitch, and of course slip stitching into the first stitch of every round. And I will show you one more time how I make my first stitch. So I chain 1, work a single crochet into the first stitch. I have these 2 bars, and then I'm going to work a single crochet into the leftmost bar, and that's our first stitch. So just continue working double crochets until you have as many rounds as you need for your book cover. Okay, I now have my 14 rounds. After you have as many rounds as you need, it'll be time to make the strap for our book cover. So to start, we're going to work in single crochets until we roughly come to the middle of one of the sides of your book cover. So it can be this side or this side. I'm going to do this side, and I don't measure it or count stitches. I just kind of eyeball where the middle is, but you're more than welcome to count or add stitch markers or whatever you would like to do. So I'm going to start working single crochets until I come to the middle. Now that I'm roughly in the middle of my book cover on one side, I'm going to make the strap. So for my strap, I'm going to chain 95. You can chain more or less depending on how big or small you want your strap to be. 95 is good for me. So that is how many I'll be chaining. And after you have as many chains as you want, you're just going to chain one extra and then slip stitch into each chain until the end of the chain. So just slip stitch in every chain until the end of the chain. I just finished slip stitching into every chain, and we're going to work one more slip stitch into the single crochet that you last made. So in that same stitch, work one slip stitch, and then just continue working single crochets until the end of this round. So until you come back to the first single crochet of the round, which is mine is right here. You can, if you hadn't already, put a stitch marker there so you can find it, but I can see well enough where it is, so I won't be needing one. But yeah, just work single crochets in the remaining stitches. Now to slip stitch into the first stitch of the round, and then you're good to cut your yarn. Now we just need to sew this bottom part together. Turn your work inside out. Cut some yarn for sewing, and just sew this bottom part together with whatever sewing method you like. I'm going to do, I'm pretty sure it's called a whip stitch. I finished sewing it together, and I already weaved in the ends, so we're just gonna turn it right side out. And I'm just going to weave in this end really quick. Okay, all of the ends are weaved in. And this is what your book cover should be looking like. And that is it for the small book cover. Now for the medium-sized book cover, I'm using a weight 4 wool yarn and a 5mm hook. So for this, it's going to be done slightly different. You're going to take the book that you want to make a cover for. When the cover is done, whether I put a hardback or paperback in it, they're all going to be roughly the same size, and the book cover can stretch quite a bit. So even if the book is hardcover or slightly bigger than this, it will still fit. But how I go about making the cover, I go off by the binding. So I'm going to make a chain roughly the length of the binding, probably like 1/2 inch shy on either side. I'll show you what that looks like. So create a chain. Here is my chain. It's 25 chains. And as you can see, it's not quite the length of the binding, but it does stretch a little bit. And also we're going to be adding extra length on either side. So that's why we want it just a tad bit shy of the actual length of the binding. So if you're making a chain, just make it about 1/2 inch to 1 inch shy of the actual length of the binding. To start our first round, we're going to work a double crochet, and you're going to make your double crochet the same way as you did for the other book cover, or if you didn't do that, then you will just chain 2. So I have 25 chains here, so I'm going to chain 1 extra, and then in the second chain from the hook, I'm going to work the double crochet, and then work a double crochet in each chain until the end of the chain. I just worked in every chain, and in this last chain that I worked my last double crochet into, I'm going to work 4 more double crochets into it for a total of 5 double crochets in this end chain. And that is what it should be looking like. And then you're just going to work 1 double crochet in each chain until you reach the last of the chain. So we worked in one side of the chain. Now we have these loops that we can work on the other side. So just working them as their normal chains, each one of these little loops, until you reach the other end. And now in the very last chain where we worked our very first double crochet of the whole round, since that already counts as 1, we're going to work 4 more double crochets into that same chain space. So if you look closely, this is the first double crochet, and this little hole right here is what it was worked into. So we're just going to work 4 more double crochets into that same spot. And then slip stitch into that first stitch. And now our book cover should roughly be the same length as the binding, and it stretches quite a bit, so once the book is actually in the cover, it'll stretch over the book very nicely. So that is the beginning of it. And now I'm going to work 10 more rows of double crochet, 11 rows in total. So this counts as our first round, and I'm going to work 10 more rounds, but that may be more or less for you depending on how big your book is. But 11 rounds is going to be perfect for my book. So I'm just going to work 10 more rounds of double crochet, and I'll meet you back here when I have finished. Okay, I finished my 11 rounds total, and I also already added the strap. If you did not watch the first part of this tutorial, you can look down at the chapters or timestamps below, and that timestamp will be helpful for all sizes, and it's the same whatever size book cover you make. For this strap, I did 80 chains, and for the smaller one, I did 95. It is just a single crochet round with a strap somewhere roughly in the middle of one side of your book cover, and then you make a chain and then slip stitch in every stitch of that chain, come back down and finish off your single crochet round. And that's it for the medium-sized book cover. For the third and final book cover, I found my heftiest book I could, and it's this massive study Bible. So I don't know if it really comes up on camera, but this thing is massive. I'm sure most people probably wouldn't be making a book cover for something of this size, but I think it's a good example on how to make a book cover for a larger book like this. This book cover is once again going to be made slightly different from the rest, and this is the only one that I will be using single crochet for instead of double crochet. Double crochet will work for this, but if you have a heftier book, it's easier with the weight for the corners to poke through the holes and stuff. I've just had troubles when I've used larger books or if I've made a cover for a laptop or something. So I found out that using a smaller stitch makes it way easier to get a bigger book or item in and out of it. But you can use double crochet, but I think single crochet is much easier. And for this book, for the large book cover, it is the only size that I recommend maybe using a chunkier weight yarn. Because it's so hefty, I feel like it will protect your heftier book better. But again, you can use whatever you want. It is all just personal preference. So to start, you're going to make a chain the full length of the spine this time. So not like the medium sized cover if you watched that part, but we're going to make a chain the full length of the binding of the spine, and it's going to be 24 chains for me. So 24 chains is perfect for me. And now we're just going to chain one extra to be our turning chain. You're going to work one single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So that 25th chain is just our turning chain. And then you're going to work one single crochet into each stitch until the end of the chain. Okay, and now I'm going to work as many rows as I need for the width of the binding. So for me, that will be 7 rows, but depending on your book, you may need more or less. I'm going to work a total of 7 rows, and then I will show you what that looks like. To start the next row, you're going to turn your work, chain 1, and then work 1 single crochet into each stitch until the end of that row. And again, I am doing that for a total of 7 rows. I now have my 7 rows, and also, sorry, the lighting is different. I had to charge my camera battery. All right, now we're going to start working in the round, and to do that, we're going to chain 1. We're going to work 7 single crochets across this space right here. So 1 for each of the rows. So just evenly work 7 single crochets. And then we're going to start working across here, which this is our chain. So you're just going to work 24 single crochets across. And then once again, you're going to work 7 single crochets across these rows. And then work 24 single crochets across here until you come to the end of the round. Okay, I came to the end of the round, and we're going to skip this right here because this was the chain 1, and just single crochet into the very next stitch. So we're going to be working in the round. Unlike with the double crochet, we won't be chaining 1 at the beginning of each round, and we will not be slip stitching anymore. So we will continuously work in single crochets with no slip stitching or chaining 1s for the next round. So to help keep track of that, you're going to want a stitch marker to mark the beginning of the round. Okay, this counts as round 1, and I'm going to work a total of 24 rounds. So that may be different depending on your book, but you will continue to work 1 single crochet in every stitch for however many rounds that you need for your size book. So it's really simple and really easy. You just single crochet. Okay, I finished my 24th round, and on the 24th round, I did go ahead and add my strap. So once again, if you are following along this tutorial on just the large version or the medium version, I will have a timestamp or chapter down below where I show how to make the last round along with the strap, because that is the same for every size, no matter what size you're making. So check that out down below if you want to learn how to make this strap, because it is the same no matter which of the book covers you are making. For this large version, I did chain a total of 90 for my strap, but that will all depend on how big or small you personally want your strap to be. To finish this book cover off, I'm going to make 1 last slip stitch, and then you will just weave that in, and your large book cover is done.